I wanted to make this video to talk about my personal experience in how journaling every single day has transformed my life or changed my life, or how I've developed or grown differently because I've introduced journaling into my lifestyle. What is good, YouTube? My name is Rossmann. You are watching Tross Films. I have journaled every single day for the past 4 years. This is kind of crazy. And to give context of this, I actually started journaling 4 years ago when I was going through treatment for my eating disorder. At the time, my counselor, Carly, recommended that I try journaling because I had a lot of anxious thoughts, especially at night. I struggled with insomnia, and when I hit my head on the pillow and tried to conk out, I couldn't because my mind was racing continually with so many different thoughts. And it was overwhelming, it was overstimulating. I would lay in my bed and then an hour would pass, and then I'd get frustrated, I'd get mad, I'd just be like, oh, I'm not gonna do well tomorrow because I'm gonna be so tired and sleepy, and tomorrow's gonna be terrible because I'm not gonna be able to function as efficiently and effectively because my energy is gonna be lower, and I'm struggling, and that just fueled the anger inside me that I was frustrated because I couldn't sleep. And then 2 hours go by, and then eventually, just because of exhaustion, I would finally fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, boom, my alarm went off and I would felt like garbage. So the first journal I got 4 years ago is this. It's called Building the Best You, a 2-year discovery journal by Caroline Harper. I don't remember where I got this, but the reason I picked this up is because this is one of those like guided journals that give you questions as prompts. Because me, at the time when I started journaling, I didn't ever journal, but I didn't really understand how to just get my thoughts down, and I feel like I just wanted a little bit more direction. So I ended up finding this journal. And the thing that's really neat about this specific journal is that it's pretty straightforward. It asks you, what did you do today? How did you feel? What is something you're grateful for? What is something that challenged you? How can you overcome that challenge? And the finale one is, what is something I savored? And the questions take approximately 5 minutes to fill out. If you want to go a little bit more deeper, like I do, it takes me probably around 12 minutes. But the habit that I've focused on was doing this right before I fall asleep. So what I did was I turned my fan on, and then I get out my journal, and then I write all these questions in, and that is the habit I developed in trying to help get all those insanity, crazy, and just mind-boggling thoughts that cause so much anxiety down on paper. And this was something that eventually became so routine and so natural that I really actually looked forward to it. And over the course of a year, of my first year getting through my treatment for my eating disorder, it made a significant difference, is what I personally found. The cool thing about this journal as well is that back when I started, it was 2017. So there's 2 columns here, and if you can see it, on the left side is black because I wrote in black ink, and on the right side it's blue because I wrote in blue ink. This is July 21st, 2017. And then right next beside it is the same date, July 21st, but 2018. And so you can, when you fill in this second column, you can see in it how you felt and what you thought and what you savor and all that stuff on this column, and it's kind of fun to relive that, and that's why I personally love this journal. So I ended up buying a second copy of it, and I just obviously got through that because I got through 4 years, and so now I'm on my 3rd copy of the same journal. So this is like a ton of documentation of my life. Like that's pretty wild. And so talking a little bit more about the benefits of journaling that I actually got was that I started first recognizing patterns. Obviously, if you're documenting every single day and you put in challenges that happened, over time you start picking up on things that triggered you. Like, for example, I struggle with depression and anxiety, and I've had a bad past with self-harm, and that's why my eating disorder ultimately developed. At the time I was going through my treatment, I had a lot of relapse. It wasn't always happening every single day. It was sometimes sporadic. So over time, I started noticing what happened before my binge, because I would write down what I did on that day. And so over time, I started realizing that I had actually certain triggers that was pretty routine. Like if X happened, then I would binge. And I noticed that when I binged, typically that X thing happened, or like that was my trigger. And so I first started noticing my triggers, which was kind of weird because I never really spent a lot of time focusing on what triggered me, because I just thought I was always meant to do it, or whatever. That was the first thing I really started noticing. The second kind of benefit that I really appreciated was actually focusing on gratitude. Now, the second question is asking, what is something you're grateful for in this day? Now, there were a lot of dark days in the past 4 years that I had. I have a lot of experiences where I had a panic attack, or I had a relapse, or I had just a really dark episode of depression and I just felt horrible. going through breakups with Lauren, stuff like that, like really dark days and days that really weren't good for me. And during those days, I still journaled right before bed because, again, it's a habit, something I did all the time. And even though I had such a bad day and it was really hard and excruciating and I felt a lot of emotional pain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I still wrote down something I'm grateful for. So even though everything around you in your vision is just dark and gloomy and terrible, you still find this itty bitty little sliver of light to be grateful for. Now, in talking a little bit about these things, sometimes it was really small things, like I'm grateful for a cup of tea, something I'm drinking actually right now in the making of this video, because when I drink tea, I'm not doing anything else. It's like 5 minutes of my day when I'm drinking my tea or my coffee or something like that, that I'm actually slowing myself down and I'm appreciating just slowing down. And that's something really small, super itty bitty of your day, like 5 minutes of your day. But I found that to be more something, because I was focusing on something to be grateful for, in those days, that's a random example. But other things I really picked up on is there's so much in our lives to be grateful for. I mean, honestly, every single thing I pretty much do or have done or have experienced in my life, I'm super grateful for. I have really good vision, and I honestly never really thought that was something to be grateful for because it just didn't really ever cross my mind. But when I try to take the time to focus on something, I'm really grateful for the fact that I'm able to see things. I'm able to see people's faces. I'm able to see animals. I'm able to see landscapes and the environment and the beauty of nature, because this earth is freaking amazing and phenomenal. And that's something to be grateful for. The little everyday things is what I started picking up on and being a little bit more appreciative of. And so developing appreciation for like the small itty bitty little things in my life, like being able to have a shoe, being able to move pain-free. I'm able to literally push a button and record this and you hear my voice and see my face. That is mind-boggling when you really think about it. And so that's kind of the realm of how much I love focusing on gratitude and things that you're grateful for, and why that particular question in this journal has made probably the biggest difference over everything else. The third thing I will focus on next is true feelings of what's going on. A lot of us, and myself in the past, did this a lot where we brush things under the rug. And that's personally one thing I hate doing, and I don't do it anymore. But so many people I know do it still. How many times have you felt your feelings were invalid, or you didn't feel comfortable expressing yourself in your feelings, like your true feelings of what's going on? You didn't feel like you had a good support system, or maybe you felt a little uncomfortable because you've never been taught really how to talk about emotions freely. I mean, those are things that happen to me. It happened to so many other of my friends and family and stuff like that. But being able to focus on like, what am I feeling? That's a big question just in itself. You could feel overwhelmed. You could feel extremely exhausted. You could feel mentally fatigued. You could feel physically fatigued. You could feel joy-filled. You could feel pumped about life. You could feel in love with a person. You could feel in love with like an activity. You could feel in the zone. You could feel groggy. You could feel so many different feelings. But when you like really dive into it, it's fascinating. For me, at least, I love figuring out what I'm feeling and really understanding like, hey, I'm feeling really crappy today. And then when you think about the things that you did, well, what did you do? Did something really bad happen at work? Did something bad happen in your personal life? Did something happen with your family or relationship? I mean, when you really think about your feelings and you can start recognizing other patterns about like, hey, when this happens in my day, I feel great. When this happens in my day, I feel horrible. That's, again, recognizing little moments and triggers and things about like positive triggers and negative triggers. And then you start like understanding, hey, I'm gonna try to avoid this person because they're really toxic and they bring me down. Or, hey, I really feel overwhelmed because I say yes too much and I take on too much and it overwhelms me. So today I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm doing this, and this, and this. My to-do list is like 10 things long and I get through 2 things and I'm overwhelmed at the end of the day because, man, I've done nothing. And I feel disappointed in myself because I only got to 2 of the 10 things. And now tomorrow I'm gonna be back and then I have to do so many other things. And it's like overwhelming, you're like, ah! Those are the weird, crazy things that I really dove into a little bit deeper. And just getting them out of paper, like even just saying like, I am overwhelmed. Getting it out on paper makes such a big difference. I mean, it's the littlest thing that doesn't seem like it does, but it does. And then the one thing that I did appreciate and then kind of not as much was the question about challenge. Now, I love understanding what challenges me, things that I struggle with, mistakes I've made, things that have happened that are really, negative or whatnot. But over time, especially in the past 2 years, I've actually progressed a lot better, and I'm very grateful and proud of that. However, I started taking it a little bit too far in a bad way or in a negative way, because on days that were really great and amazing, I felt like I was living, I felt like I was on top of the world, I would focus on something negative in my day. I mean, imagine you have like the greatest day ever, like, you just do something you love, you're with people that show you so much support and care, and you go to bed with a big smile on your face, like really joy-filled, and then you, like, right before going to bed, you write down what is something that challenged me today, and you're like, now I have to think about something that wasn't great that happened, that was really hard, or maybe difficult for me, or maybe negative. Oh man, that's what happened to me, but I actually twisted it and went further and was just like, what's something that bad that I'm thinking, or what is something bad that somebody did? Like, I would just focus a little bit too much on the bad stuff, even if I was having a not so bad day. And so I actually personally stopped writing that. That's a personal thing that I did in the past 2 years. Actually, honestly, in the past year, I stopped doing that. And I started doing things that I realized, like lessons I've learned, basically. That's kind of how I changed it. I'll have this for the rest of my life. And when I'm 60 years old or 70 years old, hopefully, I'll be able to look back on this and have a deeper appreciation for being able to document everything I did. If you particularly want this journal, I'll put an Amazon link so you can look it in there. If you yourself have experience with other journals, I'd love to hear it. Or maybe you have your own thoughts that I haven't talked about. So please leave a comment below if you did get this video, if you did enjoy it or appreciate it in any sense of the word. And as always, my name is Tyler. Thank you so very much for taking time out here to watch. It does mean a lot, and I'll catch you on my next adventure. Peace out from the red chair.